Thanks so much for joining today for our session on digital marketing. My name's Kristy. I'm a presenter and an advisor for Business Station as part of the Commonwealth Government's Digital Solutions Program. We're presenting to you on behalf of that program today. The workshop is designed to be as interactive as you'd like to make it, so please do stop and ask questions at any time and relate those back to your business if you'd like to. You can do that by using the chat or the Q&A functionality, and I'll keep an eye on that as we go, but I also will allow some time at the end of the session for any questions as well. Now, with today's session, we've got a lot to get through, and the idea is to give you sort of an overview of digital marketing and some of the basic elements of digital marketing that you can consider for your business. There is further learning available on every topic that we discussed today. So I'll specifically highlight when there are webinars and workshops that we run that you can gain some further information, but it will really depend what level or what stage you're at to with your digital marketing as to how much of this seems like new concepts, or some of it's just a bit of a refresher on perhaps some old concepts. So like I said, a lot to get through. Don't forget that you'll get a recording of this session within the next couple of days as well. So if there's anything that you wanted to sort of review or revise yourself on, you can certainly do that. All right. So what we're actually going to cover today, we are going to look at the key components of online marketing and some must-dos for each. Obviously, your website being a core element of your digital marketing. We'll have a look at that. We'll talk about some business listings that you can consider for your business. We'll touch on SEO, which is search engine optimization, SEM, which is search engine marketing, a bit of social media, and then finally end with a bit of email marketing as well. So like I said, quite a bit there. Before we start to get into that, just to have a look at why we're focusing on online marketing. Obviously, the entire digital solutions program is digital business, but there's a lot of benefits to online marketing. The number one benefit is that it gives you global reach, and you can reach more people essentially. So keep in mind, customers, your customers or consumers in general will use the internet to find all types of businesses. They'll actively seek out information, and that could be something as simple as your contact details through to what products and services you offer, or they may want to actually transact and purchase products or services, potentially booking in services at a time that suits them. So you get that global reach. It is 24/7. So I would think of your website as an example, as your 24-hour a day, 7-day a week salesperson, but you should be allowing people to interact with you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It can be very low cost or cost effective. And I think that digital marketing really is accessible to any size budget. So a lot of what we'll talk about today, you can certainly implement yourself, depending on your skills, your availability of time, which tends to be an issue and a consideration, I should say, for small businesses. But if you do want to outsource any element of what we go through today, you certainly can do that as well, subject to budget. When it comes to actually advertising or your pay-per-click stuff or spending money on digital marketing, you can really scale that up and down based on what funds you have available to spend. A fantastic and a huge benefit of online marketing is that it is measurable. So it's not like placing an ad and then you wait and hope that the phone rings and, look at it a month later and go, well, we got, a couple of leads from that and a couple of bookings or, sold a couple of products. It is measurable, and it's measurable almost immediately. Obviously, the longer period of time that you're measuring, the more data you'll have, and therefore you'll get better results. But you can certainly launch a campaign or make some changes to any of your digital marketing today and start measuring it tomorrow and then subsequent days after that. Another benefit, it sits around your audience. So you can be very targeted in your communications, but really accurately reach your target market as well. A key thing here is that you have to know your target market or the target market for your particular products and services. So that sort of goes back to strategic marketing and understanding who your core customers are, and then adapting everything you do online so that it is speaking to that target market. And then finally, once you have that interaction online, you can really develop relationships with customers, whether they be past customers, your current customers, or perhaps they're going to be future customers. You can build relationships with them, and they can be lasting relationships. So it's not like you just sell a product, have that one-time interaction, and then they never hear from you again. Through social media and other platforms online, you can keep in touch with them, keep engaged with them, and build those longer-term relationships. So when they have a need again in the future, your product or service or your brand is front of mind. So lots of benefits to online marketing. We are now going to have a look at your website. So your website really is at the core of your online marketing, but do keep in mind that it's only part of your strategy. Potential customers need to be able to find your website, and you also need to actively engage with current and future customers online through reviews, through social media, and those kind of platforms. We will talk more about being found soon, but with your website, this should be a place where customers can find out about your products and services. They can make purchases or transact, even if you do have a physical store. Perhaps you've got, bricks and mortar shop front, and that is closed. They should still be able to transact. Or most importantly, if you don't have a physical premises at all, this should be the place where people can go. So like I said, think about your website as your 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, your number one salesperson. And if you have a website already, think about, on that basis, is it doing your business justice? Is it selling your product or service as it should? One thing I really see with small businesses is that, particularly if you do have a storefront or, you have a face-to-face interaction with customers, some small businesses will have a website just for the purpose of, we had to have a website, but they don't give it the attention that it needs. It becomes a little bit different if you are an online store, for example, where, your website is every sale that you make. So those sort of businesses tend to pay a lot more attention to web design and interactions and functionality and all those things that we're going to talk about. But people will still make decisions as to whether they're going to even make it as far as your storefront or even pick up the phone and give you a call based on your website. So really consider that. Is it doing your business justice, and is it selling your products and services exactly as you would want to sell them if that customer is in front of you? So there are some key design elements to consider. The very first thing I would consider with your website is, what's its purpose? So is the purpose of your website to sell products and services? So is it an e-commerce store? Is it purely to direct people to how to get to your storefront? So, let's say you have a venue or something like that, and you just want people through the door. Is the purpose really just to get them to visit you? Or is it to make bookings of some other sort? So really consider, what's the purpose of your website? Have a look at the communication behind that. What sort of information are you communicating, and can people get that information quickly and easily? So it's one thing to have a website, let's say it looks great, images are great, but what's the content on there? We'll talk about content shortly when it comes to, what sort of content you might write, but that communication of getting information quickly and easily is really, really important. Also think about, if you receive a lot of phone calls and everyone's asking the same question, perhaps this information should be on your website. If it is on your website, perhaps it should be in a more prominent position. So if everyone's phoning you saying, are you open tomorrow? Are you open? So they're really actively reaching out for your opening times. That information needs to be more prominent on your website, because there's a good chance that they've tried to find that information themselves, and picking up the phone or reaching out to you in some other way is the last resort. So look at that offline communication and see what you can integrate back into your website as well. Images, your fonts, your colors are all part of your overall look. And that's really, really important. So you have to position your brand correctly. In terms of your images, they should be professional and they should be true to your product. Again, a trap small businesses get caught in is using stock images, which might be fine temporarily until you have some kind of photo shoot. But a photo shoot, a professional photo shoot, shouldn't be too costly. You should be able to do that at quite a reasonable price. But keep in mind, this is what's really going to sell your business or your products and services. So those images should feature your target market in them. And that's another really key element. When you're using stock images, sometimes you're not getting a true depiction of what your products and services are and who your target market is. Fonts come into that overall look as well. Your fonts should be easy to read. They should be a large enough size, and the style should appeal to your target market, as should your colors of your website. So that should be complementary to your target market. It should tie in well with your fonts, thinking about, colors, what background your fonts are on, white on blue, and those kind of light blue. You can't really see the text. So really have a look at how it sits in that overlay of colors. And then you've got the navigation. So your navigation is really how easy it is to take action or to move around your site. Normally an F pattern, a top to bottom and a left to right navigation is the most common and the most straightforward. It's really important, again, that if you have a more, fashionable sort of navigation that's not your standard typical navigation, make sure, and that suits your business, then that's absolutely fine, as long as your target market is within that bracket that can use that sort of functionality or technology, if that's what it is. So keep that navigation in mind. Your load time is really important. Now, this is crucial for the user. How many websites would you go on if, or how long would you spend on a website if the pages took forever to load? It's also really important for SEO. So I'll touch on that shortly, but keep in mind load time and continually check your load time. And then being mobile friendly or responsive is really important as well. So know your demographic, know what sort of devices, whether it's a phone, desktop, laptop, tablet, that they're sort of looking at your website on, but make sure that your website is responsive. And an example of a responsive site is what you see on the screen, where your website is adapting its size and shape to the size of the device that the user is looking at it on. Menu structures will change, the image layouts may change, and that kind of thing. So again, that's a really important factor for SEO, but very important for the user. Now, keep in mind that everything about your website, as I've touched on, should be speaking to and aimed at your target markets. Now, that'd be design, colors, fonts, technology, functionality. It's absolutely all about who you're aiming your marketing towards. So go back to your marketing strategy or your business plan and have a think about who is your target market. Really define that target market and then adapt all of your marketing to that core group of people. Now, having a good website is one thing, but people have to find it. So that's where SEO ties into it. So we're going to go into more info on SEO. Before we do, I will just touch on one question that I get a lot, is whether or not you should work with a developer. If you're launching a new website, it could be tempting to design it yourself. There's a lot of content management systems available that have templates that you can sort of plug into them. There's drag and drop sites, so you can create the websites yourself. But again, understand the value of the website to your business, understand your target market, and understand your own time and or skill sort of capabilities. If you do decide to work with a developer, costs can really vary. Now, costs will vary because of a number of factors, but a big one is your functionality and the number of pages of your site. So really consider that. I would certainly get a couple of different quotes from different developers and just compare what's included, but always ask or make sure that you understand or have seen examples of your developers' past projects. Understand their level of expertise. So have they created websites with the same functionality before? If yes, have a look at some working examples, go on them, use them, and see what's working and what's not. Make sure you're comfortable on that side of things. You have to make sure the process is transparent. So you will need to clearly understand what's included, how many pages, how many revisions, what sort of timeframes you're working towards. Now, most web developers will have a time frame based on, if you get them the information, they will then take X amount of time to do the next part. Then you'll have to have some input. So it will be a back and forth between yourself and the developer. So really make sure that if you're working to a time frame, that you keep your side of the deal up as well, that you are meeting your targets so that they can reach their targets. If you can talk to a developer, I would sort of say meet them face to face. Now, face to face could be by way of a Zoom, Teams call, that kind of thing, or even phone calls, so that as you start to go through the process, you might have a revision of your website. You might have some feedback on that. If you're putting everything in writing, you're missing some, communication perhaps. And also there can be time delays, particularly if you're working with a developer that's overseas in a different time zone. You might send them something today, they get back to you the following day, you then send them something the next day. So it's kind of been, a 3-day turnaround, whereas someone local, you might be able to go back and forth with a simple phone call and, achieve something a little bit quicker. So really make sure that you are able to engage with them directly as well as online or via email. And always ask that your website is built in a content management system. So WordPress is a very popular content management system, but there's Shopify, there's Weebly, there's tons of different content management systems. Have a play with a few, see examples of what your web developer is recommending, and make sure that it allows for growth in your business. So what suits you now might not suit you in 6 or 12 months time. Your website, a core purpose of your website is to help your business grow. So what happens if that business grows? What will be the next functionality that you might need? So always think about that longer term plan and think about where your business is now, where it will be in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, and make sure that that platform that you choose is able to grow as your business grows. So that's my advice in terms of working with a developer. As I said, get a price, make sure you understand exactly what that price includes, and then compare it with a couple of different developers. Also look for personal recommendations. If you know somebody that has worked with a developer, that those personal recommendations can be great, because there certainly are a lot of web developers out there, and they will differ greatly by way of their expertise, their capabilities, and obviously their pricing. Okay, so content, I did touch on it earlier, but content is absolutely crucial for a couple of reasons. It's really important for the customer, so that the customer can find the information that they want on your website and can make an informed enough decision to go to that next purchase phase, or to engage with you and take that next step, make a booking, make a purchase, end up at your venue or your location. It's also really important for SEO, search engine optimization. So a key element of content is keywords. So what keywords are you targeting? And make sure you've done research to back up what you think the keywords are that people might search to get to your business. Now, we do an entire webinar on keyword research because it's such an interesting and important topic. So do have a look out for that. But keyword research is basically a process of thinking about what is my customer searching to get to my website, doing a bit of a brainstorm on that. Let's say you come up with 10 different things. I think my customer is searching, these terms, write them all down, and then you use some software to actually prove what the level of volume, or what the volume is of those search terms. So you might think people search a particular term to get your business. You input it in some software, or that, some websites that I can sort of give you some names of. You input that and it will tell you there's on average 500 searches per month on this term. So as you go through that process, there's a lot more to keyword research, and there's a lot of interesting ways that you can find more keywords if you're not sure of what people are searching. So that, have a look out for that webinar. But you can use Google's keyword planner tool that's available in your AdWords account. You can input keywords there and it will tell you what the number of searches are on average per month on that particular term. There's other platforms you can use, like Keywords Everywhere. There's Ubersuggest. So do a bit of research, have a look at those couple, but I would certainly recommend don't create a website, don't make any changes to your website at all until you've done thorough keyword research. Know exactly what people might be searching to get to your business, and narrow that down to keywords that have a reasonable volume of searches per month that are really perfectly suited to what your product or service is, or what the product or service is that you're offering. Once you've done your keyword research and you are developing content for your website, make sure that you link in your keywords and that conversation to your target audience. So talk to your target market. Your content should be original. So you shouldn't be plagiarizing anything, but you also shouldn't be repeating content from in and around your own website either. It should be original on each page. It should be succinct and straight to the point. You should have nice, clear headlines. Now, headlines really break up information. So you might have a main page headline, and then you might have subheading headlines as well. They're really important for SEO, which we'll touch on when we talk about SEO, that headlines and tagging headlines correctly is an important factor as well. Bullet points can really break up content as well. Just think about the content that you're putting on a page. The average is about 300 words per page, but nobody's going to sit there and read 300 words in one sitting. Things like headlines, bullet points, will really break things up. Also pay attention to the size of your sentences and break the content up in other ways with paragraphs, as I said, headlines and bullet points. Make it easy for the consumer to digest the information that you've got on your website. Also look at hyperlinking. Internal links are absolutely crucial for SEO, but also for the customer. So if I'm reading your homepage and it's telling me that you've got product A, product B, and product C available, when I hover over product A, that should be a hyperlink directly to the page where information on product A sits. Same with product B and product C. So any opportunity that you can to make it easy for the consumer will also be a major win from an SEO factor, but that saves the customer. Let's say I'm reading your website, you're telling me about product A. It saves me going up to your menu, finding the drop down where product A is. You're going to hyperlink and send me straight there. The last point that I don't have on the screen is to proofread your content. So mistakes and little errors are just unnecessary and can be very damaging from a brand and professionalism perspective, but also from an SEO perspective. So make sure that you proofread or have someone else proofread your website for you as well. Next part, or the next element of your website, is your functionality and its accessibility. So make sure that your headings are consistent across your website. So we talked about, you might have a page heading, you might then have subsequent headings that break up sections of information. Make sure that that is consistent across your website. Now, from an SEO side, you will tag them in H1 and H2 and H3. So that will help with your consistency as well. But that's also an indicator to search engines like Google as to what the importance is of that heading. And H1 is the most important information, H2 less important, and it's all weighted accordingly. So I'll expand on that in a moment as well. There's a 3 clicks or less rule. So all internal pages of your website should be accessible in 3 clicks or less. So make sure you're not sending people from a page to a page, then another page, then another page, and they're getting stuck in a bit of a rabbit warren. Try and stick to that 3 clicks or less rule. And that will just make sure that people can find relevant pages or important pages on your website a lot easier. Your home link is really important. You don't have to have a home button. It's a bit of an unwritten rule that your logo will take people straight home. That's really important, because if people are sort of in and around your website and getting into details on, perhaps that 3rd page, but they just want to go back to the home so that they can find where they were reading something else, that home button is really important. Traditional navigation, we did touch on navigation, but I think traditional navigation is really important, just because everyone understands traditional navigation, but obviously adapt this to your target market. But in any case, your navigation should be consistent on all pages. So don't have one sort of navigation on your homepage and then change it throughout your website. It should be the same across your site. Your interactive elements are really important as well. So you might have social icons. Make sure that you're utilizing those social media icons, either your header or your footer, depending on where you want them and what's most relevant to your target market. Other buttons, there could be buttons that help guide users through your site. There could be specific calls to action on your site that direct people to take specific action. So make these calls to action obvious, but it could be a book now, it could be a buy now, it could be find out more, or call us if people need to call or do call to interact with you and they're often on their phone. Make sure that they're links that, or buttons, calls to action that can be clicked from a mobile device as well. And anything else clickable. So make sure that, it's obvious what is clickable. Now, it could be images, it could be links, it could be buttons. Make it obvious to the user that they can click them. So even just try this on different devices as well. If you, like we were talking about internal links, if you've got your homepage and it's saying, you offer product A, B, and C, make sure that when people are hovering over product A, B, or C, it's obvious that this is a clickable link. You can signify that with a change of color, underline, those kind of things you typically see within websites, so that people go, oh, that is something that I can click and take some further action. The technology side of things is really important. We've spoken about being responsive. Fully responsive is obviously absolutely necessary, but the experts do say to even consider building your website for mobile first. So consider how it functions and what it looks like on mobile first, and then worry about what it looks like on desktop later. Obviously, that being built on a content management system or with a CMS is absolutely crucial. That way, as technology changes, your website can be updated because those content management systems will have updates that make sure that your website continues to work and be relevant. Online bookability, buyability is absolutely crucial. People want to take some kind of action and get instant confirmation of that as well. So what you don't want is a buy now, book now, or some other button that actually is just a web form, an inquiry form where people have to wait 24 hours for you to get back to them. There's a lot of research and statistics that suggest that people are a lot more likely to convert on your website if they can get some kind of instant confirmation. So have a think about your business, and if you typically do like to engage with people before they purchase, and a lot of businesses that don't have that instant confirmation may say that, but really just keep in mind that that people do want some kind of instant confirmation. So even if there's one sort of product that they can get that, and then you can upsell or on-sell to them later. Technology-wise, your hosting is also really important. So you want to have reliable, fast hosting. You want to make sure that your hosting, where your website is hosted, isn't the one thing that lets you down when everything else is perfect. So there's a lot of different web hosting options. You can get hosting offshore that's as little as $2 a month or something like that. But in my experience, they are less reliable than something that's local. Hosting, pay a little bit more. You shouldn't be paying any more than a few $100s a year for hosting, depending on the size and functionality of your website. So keep that in mind. If you're not sure how and where your website is hosted, certainly speak to your IT team or your current web developer. Now, some web developers will package up their web services with the hosting. So they'll say, we'll develop your website for you, might cost you $5,000 to do your website, and then we'll host it and it's $100 a month. I would always look at hosting the website yourself so that you've got full control. Now, that web developer might take other employments, might disappear off the radar. So you want to know that you control the web hosting, and you can change developers anytime you want. In that, if you're using a good content management system and your own hosting, or hosting that you've got control over, that shouldn't be an issue. The next thing is your branding. So with your branding, you have to make sure that your brand message is clear throughout your website and it's consistent. So your brand should be represented consistently throughout the site. And some things I see here is people might pay a designer to design a really nice homepage that gets people in, but then each subsequent page of the website is quite, it doesn't have that same branding flow through. So make sure that your branding is consistent. Make sure that your logo is prominent and it's on each page, and that it's high quality. Your image should match, or your imagery, I should say, your images should match your brands and represent your brands accurately and talk to your target market, as I mentioned. Your color scheme has to connect with your brand, and it should be the same. Everything that you see online should be a similar representation to your product or services offline as well. So don't spend thousands of dollars to have an amazing website when offline perhaps your storefront just doesn't appear the same way it does online. So make sure there's consistency across the two as well. Taglines are important. Make sure that you're using powerful taglines that really engage the user and relate to what they need as well. So taglines on each page of your website can really help to really tell more of that brand story. Your layout of your website is pretty straightforward. There's certain widths, which, are current standard width that you should be considering, or that you should at least speak to your web developer about. And that should be, you should have an active page area and then a background. Your layout should be modern, clean. It should be easy to read and easy to navigate and look fresh. It should be well organized. So your content and the sections and subsections that they're in should be organized within your layout. So again, it's simple for people to move around. Your most important information and most important content should be on that homepage. So users get a real sense of who you are just by looking at the homepage, and then hopefully they'll want to know more and delve deeper into your site. Your subpages should then have that consistent layouts, and those pages that are sort of deeper within your site should still be easy to find, as I mentioned. Your footer would normally have things like contact information and repetition of your main navigation menu as well. So have a look at some examples of websites that you like, and you'll see the more professional websites, you'll see that repetition of your main navigation menu at the bottom as well. And then overall, your navigation, you should have easy navigation to use. You should be able to find main pages and sub pages when you're on any given page of your site as well, so that navigation remains consistent. So that's really a bit of a wrap up on websites and how your website may look. Obviously, there's a lot more information when it comes to websites, and this is really tailored to what industry you're in, what your business is, what products and services you sell. So that's sort of a bit of an overview. Now we're going to have a look at SEO. So we've used the term SEO a couple of times, but if you don't know what it is, it's search engine optimization. So in very simple terms, that's the process of improving your site to increase its visibility for relevant searches. So you'll have web bots that crawl your site to understand what it's all about. They'll then index each individual page of your site and then list your page in maybe not first or the first page of results, but they'll list your page against certain results based on keywords. If you're ranked quite well, so if you are coming up on the first page, then you're going to get a lot more visitors to your website. But you really have to understand the first page of what, and that's where keyword research is absolutely crucial. For any SEO to be effective or worth your while, you have to do keyword research. And before you make any SEO changes or make any changes to your website, you need to know what people are actually searching. So that Google Keyword Planner tool is really helpful, as is Keywords Everywhere or Ubersuggest. So they're the three I mentioned earlier. But keyword research, as I touched on, that'll really just prove what search volumes there are for specific terms. The next step is then for your website to improve its rankings for those key search terms in search engines like Google. So if you haven't already done keyword research, absolutely do that. If you do work with someone that's doing SEO, find out what keywords they've targeted. So if you've paid someone to do SEO, they will have or should have certainly done keyword research prior to doing any SEO. They need to know what their goals are and what those keywords are. So always have that conversation and make sure that you agree with what those key search terms are, because you as the business owner or the marketing person should have a lot of valuable input as to what you think your customers are searching to get to your website. Now, SEO then is really a culmination of hundreds of different tactical efforts. It does change and evolve. So things that you might have done in the past that have resulted in your top rankings, even just a few years ago, may not be as significant as they are today. So you really have to continuously fine-tune your SEO program. It does take time. I would allow at least a few weeks to a month before you start seeing any results after you've made changes. And because it's continually changing, you have to keep up to date with latest algorithms and then modify your SEO. Now, I'll go into a bit more detail on what that is. SEO includes on-page and off-page optimization techniques. So on-page SEO is everything that happens on your website that it affects the ranking. So things like readable URLs, it could be internal links, as I touched on, linking from page to page within your site, 301 redirects, page load time, they're all pretty straightforward. We will touch on them so that you do have an understanding of what they are. But then you've got your page title tags, meta descriptions, alt tags, and heading tags that can be a little bit more complex. Okay, so first of all, URLs. So these URLs should be readable, they should make sense, and they should be based on the keyword research that you've done for that particular page. So you can see the example here, businessstation.com.au/training. That's readable, it makes sense, and it's relevant to what that page of the website might be about. Whereas if you use a content management system and create a new page, sometimes it will just give you a coded sort of page that doesn't make sense to anyone. It certainly doesn't make sense to any web bots that might be crawling this and using this as an indicator of what keywords you might rank for. Internal linking. So you can see the example on the left of internal linking. With this particular one, you can see where it says self-contained apartments. If you were to hover over that website, that would actually be underlined, indicating that you can click through, and that would take you to the self-contained apartments page. And then you can see further down, there's another internal link with fully equipped function rooms. I think there's more opportunities with this particular paragraph, or with this particular homepage. So I would certainly consider all internal linking ability. So easy for the customer, because I'm reading about the 1 and 2 bedroom guest rooms, the suites, and the self-contained apartments. I should just be able to hover over and go, all right, let me go to the self-contained apartments, because that's what I want. So very, very straightforward. And it's very easy for you to do. It's as simple as logging into your content management system and creating a quick hyperlink to the page that you want the customer to go to. 301 redirects are again very straightforward. If you had a page on your website that you decided to take down for whatever reason, let's say that you had an event and it was no longer, it had been completed, it had been finished, but there are links that exist to that in search engines, but also perhaps in old emails, or throughout your website there could be internal links. Rather than sending people to an error page where it says this page is no longer found, or oops, there's an error, you do a redirection where the person then just gets automatically redirected. So let's say I went to go onto this page, but that page you've taken it down. So instead of taking you to the error page, I go to a new page that's somewhat relevant to the information that I thought I was going to. It just stops people going to error pages. And of course, if it's good for the customer, then it will help with your SEO as well. Now, I mentioned title tags. This starts to get a little bit more complex. So here you see an example in the red square of the title tag. So each of the pages in your website will have its own unique title tag. Now, that title tag includes the main keywords for that page, or it should include the main keywords for that page. It's not the headline that's displayed or the heading that's displayed on the page itself. It should be only visible if you're logging into your content management system. There may be an SEO section where you simply enter it, but otherwise it's in the code. So if you don't have an SEO plugin or a content management system, you can always talk to your developer about this. But Google and other search engines will use it to display them as the title in their search results, like what you see there. The optimal length of a title tag is 60 characters. Now that's long enough to display a good title tag without getting cut off. So don't use stock words like the and is and those kind of things. The preferred format is to put your primary keywords first, and then any subsequent keywords. So it's a critical factor, obviously, for web bots that are crawling websites. And, this page title tag is a key indicator of keywords and what this particular page is about, but it can also really heavily influence users. So if this comes up in the list and this is something that appeals to me, I'd be a lot more likely to click if the title tag was relevant to my key search terms. So make sure it makes sense and it is relevant, and it is likely then to be clicked by the customer, because your ultimate goal is to get people to your website and try to sell them something or give them something, convert them. So keep in mind, there has been a bit of an update with Google recently as well, where Google can sometimes rewrite title tags. So if yours is too short, or it's too long, or if there's other errors with it, or it has obsolete information, Google is sort of rewriting them as well. So keep an eye on yours. Then you've got the meta description. So that's the next part down that you see in the red square on your screen. It's not visible in any part of your site. So this is, again, in the HTML code, or if you've got an SEO plugin, you should be able to access it there. It's that little description that's found underneath your title in search results. It doesn't actually affect your ranking in search engines, but again, it's for the customer. If it's well written, it will encourage people to click through to your website, which means you'll get more traffic to your site and hopefully sales. So I would think about it as like a mini ad for your website or for your business, and it's completely free. So if you don't enter a meta description for each page of your website, Google will do it for you. Now, and other search engines, I do automatically say Google, but obviously there are other search engines. But how this happens is that they take a small sample of text from that particular page. Now, sometimes because it's not done by a person, obviously, and certainly not a person that's involved in marketing your particular business, sometimes it could be cut off or not relevant to your actual keywords. So really have a look at what your meta descriptions are for each and every page, and take control of that and consider it a free ad for your website. It's generally about 160 characters long. If you stick to that 160, you'll make sure it doesn't get cut off. Definitely don't use the same meta description for each page. Each page is unique, and therefore the meta description should be relevant to that page. Then we've got alt tags and heading tags. So on the left, you've got alt tags. Now they're used for images. They're HTML tags that really are used simply to describe what an image is about. So a search engine can't see an image. So without a description, a search engine won't have any idea what the image actually is. But if a web bot can find your image because it's correctly labeled, that will really help in terms of the SEO for that particular page. But your image could also show in, a Google images search or other image search, for example. So I would always include local keywords or the title of the page with those keywords that you're trying to rank for on your image. On the right-hand side, you see heading tags. We've touched on this a couple of times as we've spoken about SEO, but also spoken about the content on your website. Heading tags are really important for SEO because they help Google and other web bots determine what the content is on your page and how important it is. It also helps the user because of the size and keeping it consistent across your website. So an H1 is generally your big heading. That would be what your entire page is about. And then subsequent headings, your H2, H3, H4 will be what particular sections are about. So web readers will glance over a page. So these headings become really important to draw their eyes to specific topics. And then, of course, search engines use them as indicators of context. So what's on the page and how does it relate to those keywords or what the user is searching for? So I would think about it in that order as I've suggested. So H1, what the entire page is about, and then 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6, however far you want to go, are what those particular sections are about. All right, then we have got off-page SEO. Now, off-page SEO is everything that happens away from your website that directs people back to your website and impacts your rankings. So off-page optimization, I find, makes up the majority of an SEO strategy because on-page SEO, you can sort of do your keyword research, you can make a heap of changes, you can get that sort of quite finely tuned, then it's just a matter of keeping an eye on it. Whereas off-page SEO is continually building and improving the credibility of your website. So you want your website to rank above others that have a similar message. And the only way to achieve that is to build the authority of your site. Now, you can do that through link building. Link building is really a process of getting external pages to link to a page on your website. So this can be complicated. It can be time consuming. Not all links are equal. So a link coming from an authoritative website will make a lot greater impact on your search engine results than a link from a newly built or a low quality site. So a web bot will count all the links coming into your website. They'll give more weight to quality links and rank accordingly. So if your website had 100 poor quality links and you had a direct competitor that had a very similar website and 15 quality links, there's a good chance that they would rank higher than you. Also keep in mind, Google's become very good at spotting a scam. So your quality links should always come from a trusted and a reputable site. or a site that's related to your business. So normally they're difficult to come by and require some kind of human intervention. You would always try and have a link go to a page that is relevant in content, so not always just to your homepage. And normally they should add value wherever they are, to add value to the reader and be likely to be clicked. So you can get organic backlinks if you're creating content and people are sharing that content and it's linking back to your website from, a third-party blog or something like that. You can build backlinks through networking and through your own relationship building within your business. Perhaps you, work with other organizations and cross-sell each other's products, or, package up together, and you might be able to have links on their website. They have links on yours. So a reciprocal sort of arrangement. You can add your website to business directories and niche websites that are relevant to your business. So create backlinks yourself. And we'll talk about some of those online business listings, but that's a really, really good way to get backlinks that can sometimes be overlooked. I constantly hear people say, oh, no, I'm not on Yellow Pages. Nobody uses those kind of sites anymore, but they're actually really important from an SEO perspective because they give you a really good backlink. So that's just one example. There are others. But a good way to find what pages you might want to be on is to check out your competitors. So do a simple Google search of your competitors and have a look at what websites they come up on. Literally go through, just Google their names, and if there's a website that they come up on that's relevant to your business, maybe have a look and see if you could pursue the same opportunity as a listing on their website, and a link back to your website. There's then non-link related off-page SEO. So obviously earning these backlinks from external websites that are going through to your website is the most commonly practiced off-page SEO and the most effective, but almost any activity that occurs outside of your website can be thought of, that links back to your website can be thought of as off-page SEO. So social media marketing, social media absolutely sends signals to search engines. Particularly, consider the likes, the comments, the shares, that engagement that you're getting on social media. That can really help. Obviously, blogging, if you're a guest, blogging on someone else's blog site, or if you've got linked or unlinked brand mentions, always search these, but try and look for linked opportunities. So you might have someone that sort of mentioned you on their blog, but they haven't created a backlink. I would always ask for that backlink. And influencer marketing is another great form of non-link related off-page SEO. It's going to create content that's all about your business, and hopefully lead people to your business and give you better search engine results. Now, we've touched on online business listings. So there are a few, what I would say, essential online business listings. The business directories that I mentioned can really help from an SEO perspective because they give you a good quality link to your website. But what I would consider some essential online business listing, first of all, Google Business Profile. It used to be called Google My Business. So that's your Google Places, Google Plus, all of that that information, or having your Google listing and making sure that you're optimizing that as well. Now, we do webinars and workshops on your Google Business Profile and how to optimize it, how to get it looking as good as possible for engagement. So certainly consider that, but make sure that you have claimed your business listing and that you are actively seeking reviews. Look at other review sites as well. So there could be sites that are specifically relevant to your business, but people will often review on Facebook or do a Google review. If you're in hospitality, there could be things like Yelp, TripAdvisor for tourism. There's a range of different places that people can review you. So certainly make sure that you are across that and are engaging with people on those review sites. Keep in mind that just because you haven't set up a page on a particular review site, that doesn't mean that people can't review you. They certainly can create pages for you and will review where they're most comfortable. Other business directories, there are tons of different directories, and some of them might be more relevant to specific industries than others. But top three, I would look at Yellow Pages, True Local, and Yelp. Have a look at those. They do really well from an SEO perspective. But any other business directories where you can get your name, address, phone number, and your website listed is going to really help. Having consistent name, address, phone number is really important as a local ranking factor as well. So if you've got an address, absolutely make sure that it is on all of these directories. And then let's say I Google bakery in Perth or bakery in Subiaco or wherever the particular suburb is. If my name, address, and phone number, or the bakery's name, address, and phone number is on lots of different business directories, it's consistent, then that's going to send an indicator to search engines like Google that this is a bakery that's located in that area. So therefore, I'm going to come up when people search. Plus your own website should hopefully be coming up as well. But consider that if you don't have a physical address, then directory listings or local SEO can be a lot more difficult, but some businesses don't want customers coming to them. So that's fine, but just consider your local ranking factor really sits with the address. Australian business directories aren't just for boosting rankings, though. They can provide referral traffic. So think about it from two perspectives. Sometimes it can be really good from an SEO perspective. Sometimes it can actually give you leads. People can click through from your listing to your website. So it could be business that you wouldn't get otherwise. Okay, so that is SEO. Now we're going to have a look at SEM, search engine marketing. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on pay-per-click advertising. It is fantastic. It's cost-effective. It's immediate. It's flexible. Obviously, you can track absolutely everything that happens with your campaigns. So certainly look into it. It is scalable based on your budget as well. So keep that in mind. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is remarketing or retargeting. You may have heard of it as. It is obviously SEO is ranking organically when people search. SEM is then where you can set up advertising. So remarketing is a very, very simple concept. You're reinforcing your brand to people who have already visited your website. So have a look at the image on your screen. So you've got a prospect, somehow they visited your website. Now that could be because they drove past your store, they saw your car, they did a Google search, they saw you on social media. However they've come to your website, they're on there. Google tracks them, and then when they leave your site, your ads will start to appear as banners or pop-ups on other sites where there is Google advertising space. So you will most definitely have been a recipient of remarketing. You may or may not have noticed it. Some of the bigger companies can be a little bit more aggressive when it comes to remarketing. But it is pay-per-click. So you're only paying when people actually click to get back to your website. So it's extremely cost effective. All of those impressions, so all of the times that they see your ad before they actually decide to click to go back to your site, are increasing your brand awareness without costing you a cent. So it can be very low cost and cost effective. There is a similar version of this with Facebook and Instagram, where you can do retargeting in those platforms. People that have visited your website, you can then retarget or create ads that will appear in their Facebook and Instagram feeds. So that's also a really popular and a very cost-effective form of marketing. So they do differ slightly. There's a bit of a technical aspect and a bit of setup required for them. So certainly look into it. There's a lot of help articles, or one of our digital advisors can certainly help you set this up as well. Then we've got social media. So social media, obviously it's made a huge impact on all industries because consumers engage with social on social networking sites to research businesses, to make informed decisions, or to even share their personal experiences. So user-generated content is really seen to be a lot more credible and authentic than content that's generated by organizations. So really have a think about what people matter most for you. So who are your target markets, and look at the channels, the social media channels that they are accessing. Make sure that you are focusing on those channels and not trying to be on absolutely everything. You really only need to be where your target markets are. But the idea is to create snackable content. So little bits of content rather than, extensive. It's not like a blog, or it's not like a newsletter or anything like that. It's little bits of information. Certainly can direct people back to your blog on your website, and that cross promotion between the social platform and your website is absolutely crucial. but what you're really chasing is engagement. So don't put pressure on yourself to create a certain number of posts per day or per week if you don't have the content. Your content is absolutely crucial because you need that engagement. Once you've got that engagement, now that could be by way of likes, comments, shares, those kind of things. It's important that it's a two-way street when it comes to conversation. So if you're posting something, people are trying to engage with you, make sure you're there to be part of that conversation. Also, if you've got any membership organizations within your industry, perhaps reach out to them and provide them content to share on their social media pages and vice versa. So really engage with other industry bodies within your own industry or within, what your sort of product or service sits in. Keep in mind, it's a visual language. You want great content. You want images, video, that kind of thing. Video is increasingly popular, but always create content for mobile first. Think portrait because it suits all platforms as an example, but certainly factor in that most people are on social media channels on mobile. Okay, lastly, we're going to touch on email marketing. There's a range of different software that you can access for cost-effective email marketing. If you are getting a database, make sure that you have a look at how you've got that. Obviously, it needs to be considering privacy. People have to know that they're subscribing to a database, and you have to be obtaining email addresses legally. There's absolutely no point having people on a database if they're not going to be engaged with your brand anyway. So I would think quality over quantity. But when you do start your email marketing, personalization is really important. People want information that is actually going to be relevant to what they're interested in, perhaps what they've purchased before or how they've interacted with you. They also want it to be adding value to them. So if you're just sending people an email that's just with regards to sales that you've got going on, is it actually adding value to them, or can you integrate some tips and hints and useful information to the customer? Promotion, and that sort of ties into that next point about promote. Don't always promote. Certainly provide useful information that can add value to someone's day. Make sure you're segmenting your database for the best results. So only send information to your audience if it's going to appeal to them. So you might have an audience of people that are from a particular location or that are interested in specific products or that have previously purchased specific products or services. So you can segment them by demographics, past purchases, absolutely, anything, but make sure that you're only sending them information that's relevant to them. Unsubscribes can be a good thing. As I said earlier, you absolutely don't want people on your list or in your database that aren't engaged with you. So whilst, obtaining a database or having a database of 10,000 people might sound impressive, if no one's engaged, then you may as well have 0 people on your database. So really go for quality over quantity. When you do get to the point of sending, remember that your from name and subject line are absolutely crucial to make sure that your emails get opened. So if I've signed up to a database that's a particular, ABC, company ABC, but then I receive an email from a person's name, it might not click to me who that person is. And I had a good example of this from a company. I had subscribed to their database for a long time, and all of a sudden I started receiving emails from a gentleman's name, and I thought, I don't know this person, what could this all be about? It was only when I downloaded the images or had a look at the actual content of the email that I realized it was actually a company. So someone new has obviously taken over and they're sending it from their own name as opposed to the company name. So that's a really important indicator. You want people to twig straight away when they see it in your inbox, that's that company, I like that company and I want to hear from them. The next thing that's really important is your subject line. So if you want to get opens, that subject line has to be something that is going to signal to the customer that it actually is information that they're interested in. So again, not our sale now on, those kind of things. It would be relevant to what are the bits and pieces of content that are really going to appeal to your audience. And certainly if people follow you just for the sales, then that could work as well. But generally people are after information that is going to add value to their day. So that's an absolute fly through on digital marketing and some of the basics that you can consider. As I mentioned, you can find out more through any number of our digital advisors, but we also have a range of workshops and webinars. So keep in mind, if you're not already part of the Digital Solutions Program, for $44, you can get access to 3 hours of one-on-one sessions with a digital advisor, plus access to a range of workshops and webinars on a range of different digital topics. There is a little bit of eligibility around that. You have to have an ABN that's registered in WA, Queensland or NT to access the program through us. You have to be operating for profit and employ fewer than 20 full-time equivalent staff. So if that's you and you're interested, certainly follow the link on your screen. And good luck with your digital marketing. If you've got any questions now, please reach out by way of the Q&A or chat functionality. I'll stay on now for a couple of minutes to answer any questions. But thank you very much for joining today, and good luck with your digital marketing. All right, guys, it doesn't look like there's any questions. Thank you to those that reached out and said thank you. I appreciate you joining. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to sign up as part of the Digital Solutions Program if you haven't already. Thanks again and have a great day.